Coming up on the Rural Route, a unique business model that can literally be driven on any rural route. Plus, we got to meet the cutest couple from Van Wert, Ohio. And believe me, they take candy making to a whole new level. They're even on a mission to set a world record. That and more. But first, we had a very rare opportunity to get up close and personal to wind turbines in Paulding County, Ohio, when wind company EDP Renewables hosted a tour. If you're not familiar with EDP Renewables, they are headquartered in Houston, Texas, and have developed more than 45 wind farms and have 500 employees throughout the United States. When it comes to producing energy, to put it into perspective, EDP Renewable Farms in Ohio alone produce enough clean electricity to power more than 77,000 homes in the Buckeye State. And when you talk about wind in Paulding County, Ohio, the residents have unofficially dubbed their county the wind capital of the state. It's not unusual to hear farmers talking about their wind crops just as much as their bean and corn yields. Well, let's go on the tour and see for ourselves. But while we're on our way, here's a few fun tips about wind turbines. Get this is not new technology. Wind power for thousands of years has been happening. Early forms of windmills use wind to crush grain or pump water. But now, wind turbines are used to create electricity. But today's turbines are so much more complicated machines. They actually have as many as 8,000 different components to them. And boy, are some of those components tall. This tower you see, it's actually the size, the height of the Statue of Liberty. That's putting it into perspective. These wind turbines are massive. They are spectacular and most definitely transformational, not only for the Paulding County skyline, but also for the citizens living here.
We went from a community that was truly struggling financially to a community that can afford to invest in itself through either repairs at the courthouse or additional programming through the sheriff's office, through the prosecutor's office. We've been able to put money back into economic development. We've been able to fund soil and water. We're able to help groups like the Vision Board financially. We've also been able to give our employees raises for the first time in 7 years and help pay for their health insurance, which is it's just a huge battle these days, is retaining quality employees. Our fear was we were going to lose all of them to out in the private sector. So far we've been able to retain all of our quality employees. Thankfully they're dedicated servants, but also we're able to compensate them fairly now. It's just made a night and day's difference for us. We've gone from struggling every day to being able to now help others.
We were able to do some projects as far as capital projects. We redid some of our gymnasiums. We're able to put in, recently we redid our all-weather track, also the football complex and track complex. We this year added a new press box and new bleachers, so we were able to do that all. The biggest thing I think that we were able to do those, as I mentioned before, was adding the staff members that we've added to help our students to see an increase on our report card.
And let's talk a little bit about that. Like prior to the turbines coming into our county, you guys were struggling a bit, and that's really, you have the metrics now to show that that's turned around.
Yeah, our gap closing was at a failing rate according to the state report card, and the most recent was at a B. At one point a couple years ago we were at an A. So seeing that gap closing, which is the lowest 20% of our population, how they're doing in certain areas, that see them improve, obviously that shows that we are using the dollars appropriately.
So we have 166 wind turbines operating throughout the state of Ohio, and that totals 391 megawatts of installed capacity operating in the state. The majority of our investment in Ohio has been here in Paulding County. We've invested more than $500 million in 3 wind farms, and those total 325 megawatts of wind energy, which is enough to power more than 98,000 homes on an annual basis. In order to build our wind farms, we need to partner with a lot of area farmers and landowners. And across all of the projects that we've worked on over the years, we have paid local landowners in the state more than $18 million in lease or other easement payments that allow us to host our facilities on the farmer's property. In addition to that, we obviously pay property taxes. And so since we've had wind farms operating here in the state, we've paid more than $6 million in property tax revenue to the local taxing jurisdiction, which goes so far for the schools and the local taxing jurisdiction.
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Cleveland, Ohio, in Lorain, Ohio. During my high school career is when the recession hit and hit that area pretty hard. There wasn't a lot of opportunities for us to grow in, so I started looking elsewhere. Saw wind turbine technology as a pathway, and so I just went to school for that and eventually got a job in Texas, and I've been working my way back to Ohio.
Well, we love it when you come back to Ohio. That's where you're supposed to be. That's where you were
Right?
born.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully everybody here has treated you really well in Paulding County. Well, good. And you have a really fancy long title. Tell us what the title is.
So I'm a site lead technician here at Timber Road 3. Basically, my job is to plan the day-to-day activities for Timber Road 3, whether that be assigning tasks to technicians, coordinating maintenance plans or special projects.
Alex, using this model, explain to me how the process works and what the different components are.
Yeah, so essentially we're trying to capture the wind, obviously, with a wind turbine. So we got our blades here. That's going to capture the wind. Those are made of fiberglass. From there, that's going to rotate, which comes back to the nacelle, and this is where all the magic happens. So the hub is going to rotate the main shaft, which goes down into a gearbox. That gearbox transfers the low speed high torque into a high torque, or a high speed low torque, into the generator, which essentially creates the electricity to power the transformer. Transformer sends the power down to our switchgear, which then sends to the substation.
When we first arrived, EDP Renewables staff showed us 3 turbine blades that are over 219 feet long. The ends have a serrated shark teeth-like edge that are designed to reduce noise as the blades spin. This is newer technology and not only reduces noise, but also improves efficiencies. And check out the base of those blades. They are much bigger than you would ever suspect. It's hard to believe that people actually climb these turbines for a living.
So we're standing in what is like one stack, but you're saying that there's more stacks that you put on top of this. Kind of explain that.
Yeah, so we have 5 sections that make up this tower, which would go up make it 335 feet tall.
And you climb this on a regular basis?
Yep, almost every day we do.
So are you like an adventure junkie or what?
No, I just like the job.
What would you say to encourage others to get into the renewable energy field?
I'd say go for it, because it's just not only wind too, it's actually solar, hydro. It's starting to get bigger and bigger as the demands come up. I have actually 2 years associates in wind power technology, but a lot of programs they have about 8 months that are certificates. So it's just a quick way to get in and hired on.
Several years back, we really wanted to make sure that Vantage Career Center was able to accomplish one of their big goals, which was to start a wind turbine technician program. And so we have been contributing to them on an annual basis to help them with scholarship funds, monies for students who want to further their education in clean renewable energy, and also for their own on-site program where they have a nacelle simulator as part of the program to help educate students about how wind turbines operate. I really didn't know that much about wind energy or working in the private sector, and so I really feel like in part I grew up here too. So when I first started, it was all about just meeting people in their living rooms and at their kitchen table to try and, educate them about wind energy. And there were a lot of fears and a lot of concerns, and for good reason. Everybody realized that this would completely transform not just the landscape, but the community. And I think at first there was a lot of hesitation, and people really focused on how is this going to impact my farm? How is this going to impact the drain tile on my farm? But then as we piled everybody on a bus and took them to Illinois to see a wind farm for the first time, I think people's eyes started to open as they started to see the possibility. And so as they started to, and we all started to build trust with each other, then you could start to see the possibility of, this being a guaranteed source of revenue for an agricultural community where guaranteed revenue isn't always possible. There are good seasons and bad seasons. And they also started to see the possibility of the courthouse being able to stay open all day on Friday, and the schools being able to hire more teachers to help some of the more at-risk students in the county. And as we kind of grew together and built that trust together and made really big things happen, it's been an incredible journey, and really proud that I've had the opportunity to work here with all these amazing people.
When I ran for office the first time, it was in the middle of the first possible development. Conversations were how will they be taxed? Who's going to benefit? Where are the taxes going to go? How much damage are they going to do? Are they going to cut my field tile? Are they going to fix them? We're now into our fifth build. They have proven themselves to be just a dedicated neighbor. They truly want to help the people that they touch, the lives that they touch. They want to make sure that they leave them better than when they first found them. And experience has shown us that they are going to be there. They are going to answer the calls of, hey, my field isn't draining like it used to. They'll come out and help fix that. They're not afraid to take issues head on. The integrity that has been shown by the wind companies should be an example to all industry.
Still to come on the Rural Route, a lady in the lake looking over her marina. And one Fort Wayne, Indiana resident takes her passions and turns them into a mobile, memorable business. But after the break, a candy-making couple sets out to break a world record.
Number one, obviously, is safety. We definitely call 811 to find out if there are any buried lines, fiber optic, whether it be telephone or pipeline or anything. Don't take a chance. Don't think you know and say, well, I don't remember anything being put in there. Call 811 and make sure that that's identified, that there isn't something there before you make that crossing. Because in the end, we want everybody going home.
Both art and making shape our ideas and give voice to our philosophies and our questions about what we do as human beings. So this is the texture I'm using for the cheekbone. I think that everything in the world is potential material to make things with. I don't really believe in garbage. It's a really bad philosophy of humanity. Now I can find the nails in them. One example is the motorcycle tire is usually thrown away. Get out of my tire. But if you look at the material for what it is, not just what it does, a panoply of possibilities opens up. It's gonna work. And this is inspiring. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I make because there are possibilities in the world that are interesting to explore. I believe the world is continuing to change, and I'm part of that manipulation. I'm part of that change. Now, why do you make?
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
While on the rural route, we ran into a couple with quite the sweet tooth, and their candy, I have to be honest, it is absolutely artwork, and they have some crazy flavor combinations, from chili dill pickle to bacon and bourbon.
Well, we actually started making candy last year to raise funds, extra funds, because our son joined the Army, so we could go see him, and then it just took off. And in our hometown of Van Wert, back in the 50s, there was a couple, Ted and Clara, that made the all-day sucker. And people asked us, oh, are you going to bring that back? So we decided to go bigger. So we made a 14-inch, 5-pound, all-week sucker.
How cool is that? Now tell us a little bit about, you're hoping to break a world record with this.
Yes, we have submitted it to Guinness Book of World Records as the largest sucker for sale.
How neat is that? And then different flavors, you can probably order this for special occasions?
Yep. Yes, we carry over 100 flavors. And then the flavor, obviously, you can combine those, so it would be infinite possibilities.
So you do suckers, but it looks like you do all sorts of
different
things.
Yes, we do peanut butter cups, turtles, sea salt caramels, all homemade, caramels homemade. We do candy bars, all homemade, chocolate lollies that are all hand painted. Everything's done in small batches.
I have to say, looking at it, it looks like there is an art to all of this.
Like this one is bubblegum flavored
with
bubblegum balls in it.
Oh, cool.
We do a cotton candy flavor with real cotton candy in it. So
that's awesome. Well, I think it's fantastic what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you would like people else to know about your company?
Come visit us on Facebook.
Yeah, get it on Facebook. You can order online.
Love
anytime.
is our #1 ingredient.
Gotta love that, right?
Yeah.
But flavors, we have over 100.
Yeah.
And shapes, the different shapes, we have probably over 400 shapes. So.
And if we don't have something you want, I'll make it. I'll find it.
Yeah, we customize any order.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you do weddings. And
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Birthday parties, anything.
Yeah.
Bachelorette parties.
All that.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, no need to go to England to see Stonehenge when you can find it right here in the U.S. Plus, dinosaurs are hiding out on this one rural route. And why is this lady in the lake? Plus, we're going to talk with one Fort Wayne, Indiana resident who is taking her business on the road. That's right after this break.
Can I give you a hand?
Both art and making shape our ideas and give voice to our philosophies and our questions about what we do as human beings. So this is the texture I'm using for the cheekbone. I think that everything in the world is potential material to make things with. I don't really believe in garbage. It's a really bad philosophy of humanity. Now I can find the nails in them. One example is the motorcycle tire is usually thrown away. Get out of my tire. But if you look at the material for what it is, not just what it does, a panoply of possibilities opens up. It's gonna work. And this is inspiring. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I make because there are possibilities in the world that are interesting to explore. I believe the world is continuing to change, and I'm part of that manipulation. I'm part of that change. Now, why do you make?
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Flowers and a vintage truck? Those two typically don't go together, but they will after you hear from Kayla Henderson with Gypsy Blue Flower Truck.
I started a cutting garden for myself a few years ago, and it kind of produced too many flowers to give away. So I very strategically convinced my fiance to do this instead. So I grow some of my flowers, but in other markets I do have to wholesale some of them as well.
That's cool. And then how did the truck come into play?
So as a little girl, my dad was restoring a 1950 pickup truck, and I originally looked for a 1950 pickup truck. It was nearly impossible, so we just went with a Chevy pickup truck and found her in Washington State.
How long did the renovation take?
She was already renovated.
Really?
Yeah, so we just had to do the customary, like the canopy and the inset for the flowers.
So what kind of gave you the idea to sell flowers out of the back of the truck like this?
So I'm not the only flower truck. There are different flower trucks in different parts of the country. And the main one that I had seen prior to doing this was one in Nashville. And I was just like, wow, that's really cool. I love flowers, I love vintage cars, like makes sense to combine the two. So I prefer unique flowers. I don't normally like the run-of-the-mill, but today's a long, long day. So we do have some normal like daisies and chrysanthemums that are more familiar to people. But I like the straw flower that's over here. We have some pampas grass, some coxcomb, and some wax flowers. And then I'm a big fan of mixing dried flowers with real flowers. So I always make sure that I have some dried flowers on the truck as well.
Very cool. Did you go to any special school to figure out that?
No. Just love flowers. What more do you need, right?
Coming up on the Rural Route, it's Milkshake Mania. These specialized ice cream creations are attracting nationwide attention, long lines, and lasting flavors. Plus, you've heard of Stonehenge, right? But have you heard of Bama Hedge? That's coming up on the Rural Route. But now, on a recent vacation to Alabama, we discovered a 50-foot woman floating in a lake.
One of the things that I love to do when we're on vacation is to take our kids to the craziest things. I think it annoys them a great deal, but I think one day they'll appreciate it. So here's one of the weirdest things we've ever seen. It's literally a lady in the lake. We're not quite sure what she's doing. Looks like she's looking out for the marina, but yeah, very interesting.
This beauty is located in Barba Marina near Orange Beach. The Lady of the Lake is just one of the remarkable sculptures you can discover here. It was created by Matt Klein, who is a foam sculptor, and it was commissioned by the marina's owner. Still to come on the Rural Route, this shop is famous for its milkshakes in mason jars. Yes, that is a cheesecake on top of the milkshake. We'll talk about that in a bit, but more on the attractions in Alabama near the Gulf Shores. The scenery is stunning, but there are so many different attractions that are just off the beaten path. For instance, Bama Hedge.
Why is it so quiet around here? Because it's a mystical place, yes. Actually, we are just outside of Josephine, Alabama, on a family vacation, and we found this roadside attraction. You don't even have to go to England, London to see Stonehenge. You can come and see Bama Hedge.
This idea came from Alabama billionaire George Barber. Bama Hedge stands in a piney wooded area about 200 yards off the entrance road. Visitors simply pull their vehicles onto the grass and walk back into its clearing. There are no signs. All you need to do is just plug in the directions via your cell phone, and that's how you get there. Again, no signs. The structure is made out of foam, stands 21 feet tall, and 104 feet across, essentially identical to the original. It's correctly aligned with the summer solstice. The point of sunrise is over the center of the 3 lintels on the outer markers. There are actually only 4 different stone shapes, but with clever flipping and repositioning, all of them look different.
You just never know what you're going to find on the rural route. We are just outside of Josephine, Alabama. There's no signs. There's no clue that this exists, only just by word of mouth and plotting it in your GPS. But this is what we found. It's called Dinosaurs in the Forest. Look at this T-Rex behind me. Isn't he cute?
And the dinosaurs are just down a few miles from Bama Hedge on US Highway 98, just 8 miles east of Foley, Alabama. The dinosaur structures are scattered throughout the 10,000 acres. We found the T-Rex, which you could see slightly off of the road. It's quite the attraction, and definitely on a rural route. Our final stop in Alabama while on vacation was the shop called The Yard. This place is famous for making milkshakes in mason jars. And let me tell you, it's like no other milkshake we've ever experienced. That was actually a full slice of cheesecake. You can actually put whatever you want, a brownie on it. I think you get the hint. The milkshakes retail anywhere from $14 to $20. They even offer a $50 mason jar milkshake. While there, the Yard always had a line. The reason is easy. It's an experience. This shop highlighted country life at its best, and it's even attracted the attention of the TV show Shark Tank. So don't be surprised if you see these memorable milkshakes in a town near you. But for now, you'll have to travel. Visit their website for current locations at theyardmilkshakebar.com. So we visited a wind farm in Paulding County, Ohio. We got to go inside of one of the towers of the turbine. We also met some new friends. And most importantly, we saw how a wind farm in a rural setting could transform not only the landscape, but transform the citizens of the county by offering revenue sources and services that this county hasn't seen in a long time. We also met a woman from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who took her passion of flowers, put it into overdrive. And we met a couple in Van Wert, Ohio, who create masterpieces with candy. And last but not least, a family vacation in Alabama took us off course, but actually all the time we were in the right direction. If you are ever in Alabama, look up Bama Hedge, Dinosaurs in the Forest, and my favorite, Lady in the Lake. Like I always say, you never know what you'll find when you're on the rural route.
Both art and making shape our ideas and give voice to our philosophies and our questions about what we do as human beings. So this is the texture I'm using for the cheekbone. I think that everything in the world is potential material to make things with. I don't really believe in garbage. It's a really bad philosophy of humanity. Now I can find the nails in them. One example is the motorcycle tire is usually thrown away. Get out of my tire. But if you look at the material for what it is, not just what it does, a panoply of possibilities opens up. It's gonna work. And this is inspiring. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I make because there are possibilities in the world that are interesting to explore. I believe the world is continuing to change, and I'm part of that manipulation. I'm part of that change. Now, why do you make?
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.